Dash, episode number 4. I'm your host, Trey Gammage, and today I have a very special guest, Andre Gammage, who is also my father, the third black judge in the 200-year history of St. Joseph County. That's northern Indiana for those who are not in that area. He's also had a law practice for over 20 years. He's been on panel discussions in Selma. He's been with the 100 Black Men. He's mentored, he's organized, and today he's talking about the curriculum he's developed, preparing your child for education. And it's an amazing perspective because he is the judge, he is the lawyer who has been in the courtroom while their child are watching their parents go to jail. So it's just a crazy perspective, and I'm excited for what we're sharing today, what he has to say today. Remember, there's 2 parts, so check out episode 5 when you're done. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Show notes at TreyGammage.com. Make sure you subscribe and tell your friends. This is The Dash. Some of the things that you've done that I don't know about, or that none of your kids know about, or people wouldn't know in general. So I know I know about Alabama, and you were on the 50th anniversary of the Selma. What was it? You were on the panel?
Yeah, it was a panel discussion on, and I was actually talking about investing and what we needed to do, particularly as African Americans to move forward. In terms of building wealth. And one of the things that I was discussing there is how we have to live for the generation coming up behind us. You know, whether it's having insurance so that when we die, we're able to pass on money to our kids, or doing things, you know, educationally, so that I'm not getting a new house or a new car, but I'm saving money for my kids to be able to get an education. Those are some of the things that I was talking about, because, you know, I think it's important to understand that, you know, wealth is built through through generations. So, you know, at some point you have to, you know, live for the next generation and say, hey, I'm going to try to make it better for my kids so they can make it better for themselves, and they can start off, instead of start off with zero, you know, start off with something.
Have you done that? I remember the one time I asked, I told you I thought I had done enough. And you and you went off on me because I said, have you done enough yet? How do you know when you've done enough?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that I learned from my parents is that there are a lot of teaching moments that go on, and they don't necessarily have to be, hey, sit down and hear this message. Sometimes it's making sure you get up every morning. Yeah. Get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, why, Dad? I don't have anything to do, but I need to make sure you get up so that you're in the habit of getting up. And for you in that situation, you're like, well, I'd done the dishes. Yeah. You don't want to take the trash out. Like, I've done enough. Yeah, but the cable is off. Okay, the cable's off, and the cable's not a bill that I'm supposed to pay. Right. So if I don't pay the cable bill, then your little brother doesn't get his homework assignment done. He gets an F. He flunks a class, and because I didn't want to do a little bit more. So it's I was telling you that as another teaching moment, so that something that gets ingrained in you and your brother and whoever else, so that you all down the line know that, you know, it's really never enough, especially when you're talking about your kids. You know, talking about your kids and your families and your responsibilities. I mean, I'm not going to the grocery store, but we don't have anything to eat. So what? I went to the grocery store last time. Well, we don't have anything to eat. So there's just teaching moments. There's things that you do over life, I think, that are just a lot of teaching moments that you have to try to give. And so really is when you have kids, I think, you know, their whole life as a child and your whole life as a parent is all a teaching moment, and you try to do the best you can to be able to show them along the way and prepare them for what they're going to have to do as adults.
What's left for you? As you're 54 now, your kids are in college. We're all in college. We graduated. DeLorean's still in school. We're all working. We're all hustling. You're working and hustling. What's left for you to accomplish?
That's a good question. I think, there's things that I continue to want to do as far as the judiciary is concerned. I want to be able to reach the highest that I can reach in the judiciary. So whatever opportunities open up that I think that I'm qualified for, I will seek those opportunities. But the other thing in terms of what else I can do, I've kind of over a short period of time, though, I think I've come to the realization, though, that where I am is really kind of a good path for me moving forward. And so it's important, my thought process kind of change over and try to make sure that you all pick up the ball and run with it. Grandpa did what he did. He built a name to a certain extent. I expanded that. So as I've tried to tell, particularly you in Austin, that it's now important for the two of you to try to expand it exponentially. And that's kind of like what we talked about before, is building and wealth. Not necessarily wealth for the sake of having
financial
money.
Yeah.
But having wealth and stability, number one, gives you an opportunity to live a good life, gives your offspring an opportunity to be able to live a good life, and also gives you an opportunity to be able to help others. It's hard to help others. It's hard to take the time to be able to do things for somebody else when you're trying to make it yourself, trying to keep the lights on. You can't be worried about helping somebody at another school, helping somebody else's kid, donating money, donating time. So, for me, building wealth and being successful gives you an opportunity to be able to do something for somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. I think we've picked up, that's the power of compound interest, I think, first of all. So from Grandpa picking cotton in the 1930s and 40s to the third black judge in the history of a 200-year history of the county. And so now, I've been able to ask you about taxes since I was 17 years old. Austin's had his first business at 19. Everybody's doing these things. So now at 23, I can see past the place where, if we're talking about financially, you didn't start to get to till you were 30. So that's very hopeful, I think, for all of us to move forward. And it's also, I think you can point out, and that's what's so important about PICE, and I know that's what we really want to talk about, is how important the opportunity is. Because what we have, having you as a father and my mother and our mother, there's so many opportunities that we get that other people just don't. The opportunity for me to suck at football my junior year, and just because my dad said that I wasn't that good, I can get a trainer. And I can go to the store and get me some turkey sandwiches so I can be big and strong again.
Yeah. You know what? You say that all the time. You always, and I've told people that, hey, my son is, because you had enough, you were doing something at the church or something like that. I had to be told I suck. You say I suck all the, and that's true. And I did say that. And you did suck at the time.
Yeah, it was true.
It was true. And, but, sometimes when I look back on, saying that you suck, probably was harsh to tell the 16, 17-year-old son, but I didn't really know how else to say it.
Well, one of the things, it worked out well because you didn't just say I sucked to say I sucked. Right. You said it, one, because it was true, and you didn't say it and leave it at that. You said that and gave me the tools to get better. And if I could not get better, you wouldn't have said it anyway. So from my standpoint, Trey, you said you want to play football. You got the All-Conference Award. I thought you sucked. If you think that's it. So, I mean, if I'm serious about playing Division I, if I'm serious about anything, I need to be able to take somebody telling me I suck. If it's true, so be it.
And you're right, and that's a great point that you made. It wasn't just like, hey, Trey, you suck, and just walk away. It was, Trey, look, man. Right now, as far as playing football at the next level, you suck. But I said, if you just had no ability whatsoever,
it'd be different.
You're too small, you're too slow, you don't have strength, I wouldn't have said that to you. I would have said, you know what, you're doing your best. If I would have thought you were doing your best and that you had done everything you could to prepare yourself to play at the highest level, I wouldn't have said that to you. I have a very good understanding of people and what their abilities are. Whether it's mentally or physically, and particularly with my kids, I knew that you were capable of more. I knew you hadn't really put in the effort to be able to hone your skills to get better. And so I didn't know what those skills would turn out to be, but I knew that you weren't working at the level you could work at. So you're right. It was somewhat of a motivation. It was like, okay, if you want to get better, we're gonna put you in this, okay, and we'll see what happens. And I honestly didn't know what happened.
Right.
What happens? We're gonna put you into this program and this regimen to be able to work twice as hard as everyone else. And if you work twice as hard as everyone else, maybe something will come out of it. Train twice as hard as everyone else. And so you train twice as hard as everyone else, and the fruits of your labor show themselves. So, but I wouldn't have done that to, even from years ago, coaching kids. I knew what kids were capable of.
Right.
I knew that one kid was not going to be able to tackle the other kid. I didn't let him know that he wouldn't be able to make that tackle. I wanted to give him confidence. But when he didn't make the tackle or he didn't make the play, I didn't yell at him. And I didn't yell at him because I knew he wasn't actually capable of making that play. But I wanted to put him in position to be able to make that play so that one day maybe he would. Maybe he would be in a position to be able to make that play. But I knew right now that kid can't hit the ball, that kid can't make the catch, or he can't make the tackle. So I kind of knew what I was doing. I'm glad at this point you at least appreciate that it wasn't.
I think you have, for me, I have to appreciate it. And as somebody, I think if you're going to strive, you can talk about the Jordans or the Kobes or whatever. Not that I'm comparing myself to them or whatever, but there is a certain dog in the fight that you have to get past a certain level or a certain state. And like you said, twice as much. You didn't say a little bit extra. You said do twice as much. I was doing 2 a days, and this is the chunky fat boy who hasn't really been athletic or shown signs of being this Division I player that he seeks to be. But try it out. If you can make it, we'll see. If not, oh well. You did what you could. So I mean, your thing has always been, okay, I don't care what my kids do. DeLorean plays soccer. Valencia did the baton. Me and Austin play football. Whatever you want to do, I'll help you get it. That's a cool approach, and I think that sparks a mindset in us to want to continue to grow, because it's not you get good grades and you play your sport and you're good, but it's also, it doesn't matter what your sport is or your extracurricular. Just do your part and do your job.
Yep, and I'm glad, and I think that, and I'm glad that you all appreciate that. Sometimes one of the things that's hard as a parent, and sometimes particularly as a father, it's sometimes difficult because your kids and your wife or mother, whatever the situation might be, they don't always know what's in your mind. Like, you're being harsh, man. Why do they have to get up? Or why do they have to eat like this? Or why do they have to do certain things?
Right.
And the kids don't understand. And sometimes when you have that knowledge, though, you have to press forward and give that knowledge and kind of fight through it. Like, no one's really going to understand this. Everybody's going to be mad at me, but I know this is the right thing. And I'm not talking about things that you're uncertain about. I'm talking about things that you absolutely are certain of, that this kind of discipline, that is going to school, getting up in the morning, working hard, shaking hands, looking people in the eye, all those things that you know are absolutely right and absolutely things that are necessary, that need to be done for your success. Those are the things that you have to kind of continue to push through. And it's kind of lonely sometimes because everybody's mad at you.
Wow.
You know why, and you're not gonna know why. Like 10 years later, like, Dad, I got it, yeah, but y'all was mad for like 3-4 years.
So how do you deal with that? With having, so it's grateful. I feel like I'm pretty grateful to you, and I express that to you a lot. But there's still, as a parent, there's so much that you do for people that I'm never gonna see about what you do. Is that difficult as a parent?
No, you know what? I have great pride in each of you because of the young people that you've become. I don't know if you talked to Austin today, but Austin came down today, and they were trying to give him money, trying to give him a job, and he said
he looked pretty good. He sent us some pictures. He sent everybody some pictures.
But he was in the director of economic development. Just someone brought him in and he was talking to him, and they offered him, "Do you want to work here, or do you want to, or do you want us to just give you the business?" Asked him. Matter of fact, they even asked him, "Well, how much would you charge us to present this, to get this information out for us? And I was
Wow.
like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't even, I just came down to my dad's office. But what he told me is that the man said, the way you're dressed and the way you talk is better than your resume.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's like,
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what he's like. I see what you got already.
Whoa.
The way that you dress and the way that you speak. So
Dang.
So he was just, he had to basically tell them, okay, hold a minute, stop. I can't even. They offered him like on the spot, like money. How much would you charge? He said, I don't know. I can't even give you a price because I don't even know what you're
we're doing.
about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're waiting for him to get back with them.
Wow.
To tell them. He said to them, hey, look, I want to know what your demographic is and the product, and then I can come back to you with how I plan to do it. But I'm like, okay, come back and tell us. So I mean that would have happened too. And had you been there, the same thing would have happened.
Right.
Like I said, great pride and joy in the type of people that you all have become. That is, young people from the standpoint of being active in your communities, working hard, the way you treat each other, the relationship that you have with each other, the way you treat older adults, your involvement in church, all those things are a great reward to me to be like, hey, I met your son, or I met your daughter, he's such a nice person, they do this and they do that. So all of that is a great reward.
Okay.
It just is.
That makes sense. And so I actually just put this connection in my head while you were saying that. You're much like Grandma in the sense that how many people that we heard about at her funeral that she helped and nobody, she just never even mentioned. So as much as you do for the people in your life, and we talk about it all the time, you do a lot for the people and never tell us, like the boy on the bridge or the 100 Black Men or Selma. Why is it so important for you to give back to other people?
It's really important because I realized that I was born into the environment of my mother and father. A hardworking man that came here from Mississippi who grew up when Black people were still being lynched and sitting on the back of the bus and drinking out of whites only fountains and picking cotton and all those things. But he never gave me any of that. He never said, I never felt hatred. Matter of fact, the exact opposite. Treat everyone the same, treat everyone based on who they are, the type of person they are, not what the color of their skin was. I grew up with that from him as far as the work ethic is concerned, and from my mother, who was a disciplinarian, a God-fearing person, a caring person, a sympathetic person, a person who always had a good word for everyone. So there was nothing that I did to be born into that situation.
Right.
And that situation, being born to that mother and father, was something that I can't take credit for. If I hadn't had that mother and father, I would have been an entirely different person. So what I try to do for people is really symbolic of the opportunity that I was born into.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I created that. It's like, well, what is you're just this judge and you have success in the law practice and things of that nature. But had I not been born to that mother and father and taught me those things, which I had no control over, then I would have been an entirely different person. And that was one of the things that I could see in terms of the representation of people, juveniles and adults, and not all of them, but some of them came from environments where their fathers weren't around, their mothers weren't around, they weren't being cared for, they weren't being loved appropriately, they weren't being given the proper discipline. And so some of the situations they ended up in were situations that were just emblematic of the environment they came up in. And so I knew that had I grown up in that environment, I could have been just like them. So in terms of the defense work that I did over all those years, I never looked at anyone that is, this is a bad person. A lot of times it was a person who came up in an environment who didn't know any better, who didn't have the proper guidance. And so,
and in many cases, you're talking about people who have murdered, assaulted, battered, and abused and things like that. But I still think you're right. I still think you're true. I mean, your environment and the way that you're brought up has a lot to do with that. And so for you to be an attorney of all things, a defense attorney that helps young juveniles and delinquent minorities, and then to be a judge so you can again put your stamp. I think before this election I didn't know how powerful voting was. Even when you ran for probate 4 or 5 years ago, seeing how this election directly affected me, it made a big difference for the way that I look at voting, knowing that if somebody else was elected, you would have got a new position, or my cousin would have got a new position, just because of that. Like, I thought it didn't, oh, that's too high up, that doesn't touch me. But no, that's my father and my first cousin that it's affected by. So that's pretty crazy. And that was just a side note as well. I'm still getting to the point where you've done that work as a judicial officer and as an attorney, and you've done the work as the mentorship. I didn't realize that you and Cleo and the other man started the mentorship. But the story that you had about that was, okay, I come and visit the kid after school for an hour, and I walk him home to a home that's continuing to be in this bad environment. What's the point of my mentorship? I'm with you 1 hour a week, once a week, and you spending the other 23 hours doing nothing. So what can I do? So now you've come up with PICE. What does PICE stand for, and why is that so important?
And I think it's very appropriate that you brought up the idea that, I mean, as soon as I got out of law school, me and Cleo Washington and Charles Martin, we co-founded Leaders and Positive Role Models. And young guys just out of school, no money involved in the situation, just volunteering to go in and generally getting the back, hey, there's these 6 young men that we want you to talk to, all of them getting D's and F's, not showing up for class, so on and so forth. And so, and I did that for we did that for several years, and it was very successful and a very well-known entity in the community. And then I started getting more involved in my own business, my law practice, and didn't have as much time to spend doing that, and had to take care of
your own kids.
And that is the sidelight is that, hey, for the last 15, 16 years, what have you been doing? I've been doing a lot of things, but for the most part, I've been taking care of my kids. That is, hey, I said, hey, I'm in the 100 Black Man. I said, well, but you're not in a meeting. Like, where am I at? I'm taking care of my kids. My son has a football game. Okay, I'm with y'all. I'm with y'all. Anything you need me to do, okay, I'm with you 100%. Here's my money. Ask me to do something, what have you. But you got a meeting on Saturday. My son's got a game. Okay, I'm going to see my son's game. I'm taking my son to a game. Those things. So I was doing things, and a lot of it I was doing during the practice of law. But when DeLorean graduated in 2016, I had the Preparing Your Child for Education. That was what I had on my board for a long time. And it really arcs back to one of the things that we just talked about is parenting and what my parents did for me.
Right.
And I thought that, based on the experience with my mother and father, the experience with my own children, and I coached baseball, basketball, football, and so and in addition to,
and you were at every game. That's an old I ought to pay to you as well. I was talking to somebody. We're talking about support. I was like, man, shoot, low key, my dad has been to just about every one of my kind of games since I was 6 years old. Whether it was 2 hours away across the country, Washington D.C., whether it was a T-ball game or the World Championship, you have always found a way to back up your support in whether people suck or not. Whether we playing or not.
And you're right, I'm going to games you ain't no good, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to games. I'm going there, like, I'm going to this game. But not only, and I will say this, I went to your games. It's different if you have one kid. I went to your, like, whether it's baseball or T-ball or football.
Your choir recital.
Say what?
My choir recital or somebody's saxophone.
Your choir recital, exactly, choir recital. All those things. I went all those things, same things for Austin. I went to soccer for DeLorean. I hate it. I'm like, man, please don't play this game. So, but I went to all the soccer. I went to baton. I went to her track meets. We went, a bunch of different places. But, that was just another aspect of what needed to be done. But when I was done with that, really with DeLorean, when he graduated, I really took the experience. And the reason why I brought up coaching is because there were other kids, So you were there, but I'm also watching Johnny and Jimmy and Bobby and how they interact with other people, how they play, their level of confidence for all of you. So I'm there whether I'm coaching or just observing. I'm watching
the people
kids.
around,
and so I'm learning from my kids. I'm learning from all these other kids, and I'm learning from my practice of law, where I've seen people get into trouble. I've seen people do well. I've seen juvenile delinquency issues, things of that nature. And so I'm taking in all this information from all these different sources, and it resonates with me because of my parents. And I said, this information is information that really needs to, I need to put on paper. I need to get out. And coupling that with, and I'm not saying that kids shouldn't have mentors, but the parents control the environment. And so what I did with preparing your child for education is I did some research, PowerPoint, and really coupled that with my own experience. And so what I do with that now really is I talk to parents about the control they have over the environment and how that environment affects their child's educational success. So I go in and say, and really kind of explain to them first. I think the most important thing to do is to say that, education is so important. Education gives you options. Education gives you opportunity. And I know that people say, well, education isn't for everyone, college, that kind of thing. And I get that. Okay. But generally speaking, statistics show that people with a high school degree, people with an associate's degree, people with bachelor's, master's, so on and so forth, make more money. and I don't want to, we talk about money here a lot, but I'm not, hey, here's someone that's just about money. That's really not the issue. But you can do so much. You can affect other people.
That's just a piece of that part. The money part, when you have money, it's not an accident when you have money. Just like you said before about present, it's not an accident that somebody that's successful and has money is also in shape. And that they also they have a certain routine. All the things are encompassing. So my wealth and my spirituality and my being, as it's all one and the same.
It all goes hand in hand. So you make money, you can give it away if you want to. You can give it. That's fine. So when I talk about money, I don't want people to be confused that it's all about money. But it gives you options because if you don't have money, if you broke, it's hard to do anything for anybody else. It's hard for your kids.
Right.
If my kid wants to do X, Y, and Z, but we can't afford to do that. How do you create a better environment for a child? And so that's what I do here is I try to, number one, try to show parents how much control they have over the environment and how that environment helps the educational process for their kids. Because when the kid goes to school, he or she needs to go to school with the right framework, the right mind work. So that they're there. What am I here for? I'm here to learn. I'm seeking knowledge. This knowledge that I get in the first grade, fifth grade, 10th grade, what have you, is going to help me in my life. It's going to help me be successful in my life. So I try to talk to them in the first phase, if you will, about the education and how important it is in that environment and how control you have over that environment. And then I move into explaining to them really that your child is a blank slate. Your child is a blank slate. This kid's not born bad. This kid's not born good. This kid is born blank slate. You make that child. And so then I get into those things that help you make that environment better. Some of the discipline issues, the moral guidance, the security of the home, the security of the environment that the child is in. What happens if the child gets hurt? Who do they go to? Where do they go? Doing what I do, not just I'm telling you something, but I'm not doing that. It's do what I say is not good enough. You need to live it. Your child needs to be.
Because they see everything.
Because they see it all. So you get up in the morning. I've said, look, you don't have to. If you never said a word to your child and the child lived in your house, get up at 6 o'clock every morning. Hey man, my mom and dad get up at 6 o'clock every morning. Come back about 4 or 5 o'clock. At some point, think maybe he or she's going to work. bills get paid, that kind of thing. Must be work, must be a job.
Right.
Sunday, 8, 9 o'clock, they go away, get dressed up. They may be going to church. So if you never
You
said
see them doing
anything
something.
they're seeing it. There's something. They're like, what is this person
Right.
doing? And eventually they figured out, like, going to work. What did you do? I saw my daddy get up and go to work every morning. I saw my daddy get up and go to school every morning and go to church.
Wake up and cook breakfast and go to jail before church and do those kind of things like you did. And that makes a huge difference too. That kind of modeling. So for me, on Saturdays, that doesn't mean sleep till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That makes no sense in my mind ever. On Saturday, if I wake up at 8 o'clock, I slept in. That's kind of the mentality. 8 o'clock, shoot, I slept in pretty good. Even if I went to bed at 4 o'clock, that's still sleeping in. 8 o'clock, that's late.
Mm-hmm. Take a nap later. Take a nap at 12 or 1, what have you.
I gotta get up. So what do you see as with Pice? And I want you to talk first of all about Madison and the demographics and the struggles they have at that school, but the overall vision that you have as Pice, because I can see a little bit in my head the impact that this program can have on not just South Bend, but the country and parents. But talk about... Go ahead.
Well, the reason why I say that is because, did I tell you last night, the Indiana Department of Education was here because that Madison school has got an F grade from the school for 5 years in a row. And so the Department of Education has to come in under their rules. They have to come in and evaluate the school and make some determinations about what's going to happen. Is the state going to take it over? Is there a plan that the school and the school corporation have? And there was about 300 people there last night. And the principal had called me and asked me to come speak on their behalf because of what I had done there. And part of her presentation, she put up the graphic, the flyer that your brother did, preparing your child for education. That whole graphic they put up on the screen for everyone. Actually, I got a call today. I got an email today from another teacher who wants me to come to an intermediate school to be able to do the presentation there. But in terms of how I see it, what I see is number one, getting the parents to buy into the environment and how much the environment affects the educational process. And number two, being willing to then buy into trying to create a better environment. And I understand that your child is in the second grade or third grade, or whatever the situation might be, and you might not have all those things that you would like, and that environment might not be as conducive as maybe it should be for that child's educational growth. And so, but you want to move them. My child is in the second grade. So by the time the child's in the fifth grade, I want to have my own house. I want to be in a better environment. I want to have the situation a little bit better for myself so I can provide better for my child. You want to be moving in a direction. So I want to be able to help parents move in that direction.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I collaborated on with Goodwill was to be able to offer services to parents to be able to say, when you buy into the education is good, you buy into the environment has very much to do with the educational process, and you buy into, I want to change my environment to make my environment better. And the environment can never be perfect, so you're always going to be working on that. Right. So by bringing in other resources, social service agencies, that kind of thing, because people have different problems. I've got a drug problem. I don't get along with my baby's mother, my baby's father. I don't have an education myself, so it's difficult for me to be able to communicate and be able to help my child with his or her schoolwork. So, let's get some counseling, let's get some tutoring, let's get you your GED, let's help you get a job, let's help you get a license, those kind of things, because your child, this helps you create that better environment, and your child sees success in you, and that in and of itself breeds success in the child. So
you're really helping people help themselves, and really bringing the accountability and the responsibility to where it's already at. I change myself and I change the next person's life is essentially what's going on. Episode 4, Pice, preparing your child for education. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to check out part 2, episode 5. That's continuing the same conversation, continuing to go forward. You know, one of my top takeaways here is basically looking in the mirror, asking myself if I've done enough is what needs to happen in order to keep going forward. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you like it, please share it. Tell your friends. Help us spread the message. This is The Dash.